Welcome back, guys. This is Shane. So today's video is a highlight video of all the different topics and discussions that were in the live stream, kind of condensed down. What I found is if you post, say, a 2-hour live stream and you're not part of that as it went live, it's really hard to watch it back sometimes. I feel like that watching other live streams. If you're there, it's a lot more fun than trying to watch it later and kind of missing out. So I've time-stamped what I think to be the best discussion points in the description below. If you like this idea, please let me know and I'll do it more in the future. It just sort of seems like a 20 or 10-minute video will be way more easily digestible than sort of skimming through and trying to find the topics of interest in the actual live stream. So this is my selection for the best clips from the live stream today. Here we go. We got Andrew Johns from New Jersey. Am I still digging the Fender Bassbreaker 30R? Mine died a week after purchase, so I returned it. You know, I didn't buy it, and one of the reasons I didn't buy it was because I've got a Marshall, and I love the Marshall amp. It's just, it does pretty much everything that the Bassbreaker 30 did, but that was on loan. I actually just borrowed that from a shop. The other reason I didn't want to buy it was because the prior versions of the Bassbreakers were notoriously unreliable. I think the best one out of the prior release ones was like the 15. The 15R was a great little amp. It had the reverb, and I think from what I understand, they didn't have as many problems as the larger amplifiers. It's a shame to hear that, man, because they sound unreal. I'm sorry to hear that it died. What are the top 5 things to learn when it comes to blues? Cheers, mate. Hope you're doing well. So for me personally, I always think there's a few things that I like. Rick and I spoke about this on a podcast, actually. So if you've already heard this, I'm just going to sort of briefly go over some of it. But the first thing is to bend with intention, right? If you're bending a note, make sure you know where you're trying to bend to. And the easiest way you can test that is by bending a note and then hitting the note. And if they sound the same, your bends are good, right? The next thing is to not play vibrato the same way every time. So violent vibrato is good every now and then, but try to do it with some finesse. Watch Clapton. Vibrato would be a massive thing in my top 5. It would be up there with some of the most important things. These aren't in order, by the way, but so bend with intention, play vibrato that feels like a voice. You don't have to hit a vibrato as soon as you hit a note. Hit the note and then add some vibrato. That works too. So think about the tempo of the song, adjust it accordingly. That would be a huge thing for me. Phrasing is probably maybe the most important thing, and it's something that we all forget about. The more I play, the more I phrase. It's weird. Like if I'm rusty, I tend to overcompensate by wanting to play more. But you've really just got to strip it back and play some phrasing. So look at Albert Collins, Albert King, all these guys. They'll play, a note up high. They'll play something down low. There's a conversation going. So that would be easily up in terms of maybe the most important thing would be the phrasing. I'd almost put chord complementing in there, or what's the other word for that? Like if you're playing with someone else, try to find chords that complement what they're doing and don't play the exact same thing. It's good to learn a riff, like a bumper kind of riff or whatever, but then start to work on chords that complement somebody else. That would be a huge thing a lot of people don't do. I've seen jam nights where there's 3 guitar players. They're all playing the same thing. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, no. How about someone play a chord? No. Just and keep your ears and eyes open about what's going on and listen and try to soak in the things that, sound great to you as a guitar player and focus on those. Try not to get too distracted. Just pick what you enjoy and try to nail that. That would be my 5. Hey, Todd Steele. Thank you, mate. Weekly subscription to go to guitar-related items and toilet paper. I'm considering the Two Notes Torpedo Live, which you use. Current thoughts on the model and best place to grab one. I tell you what, man, the Two Notes Torpedo Live is an absolute pleasure 2 years after getting it. I love it, and it's gotten better over the years. The latest firmware upgrade gives you 2 separate microphones that you can put in front of the cabinet, which wasn't something you could do before. It was either one in the front and one on the back. Now you can do either. I run it with a 57 and an E906, which is what I've got. I can barely tell a difference in the sound once I record with the same speaker IR. It is so good. It is a really great thing, and it gives you the flexibility of using your pedal board into your amp, into the 2 notes, and that's what I use on my pedal demos on the most part, unless it's a pedal that doesn't work, that where you need some sort of live response in the room. Some pedals don't need that, like overdrives need it to some extent, but not that much. Sometimes a clean boost pedal, you need a bit of the actual, you need to mic it up. But in terms of just overall, man, the Two Notes Torpedo is still the best. The Two Notes, you can't really go wrong. I still think I think Robert Baker's also got one of those too, so maybe he can give you some thoughts on that as well. You don't like Robert Plant's voice, clicks unsubscribe. Yeah, that usually happens, mate, so don't worry. I'm used to that. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, I think it's true with, like, I know people that, there's a lot of iconic musicians out there, guitar players, drummers, bass players, vocalists that are regarded as some of the best to ever have played or sung or, whatever. And there's always people that just don't get it. And I'm one of those guys with Robert Plant's voice. I find it irritating. I'd much rather listen to someone like Tommy Castro sing, or Michael Burks, or, Chris Kane, or Eric Clapton even. Yeah, I find it a bit too high. It's a bit too high and a bit too... It almost sounds... It's got like a feminine quality to it, which isn't, I guess, a bad thing for that style of music, but it doesn't really resonate with me. I don't know. I like, I guess, lower voices. There's a lot of guys that can't stand Elvis or can't stand Ginger Baker or any of these guys that play different instruments. So yeah, it is just a personal taste thing. I think not everyone can like all the popular stuff. I put it out there. I just put out my opinion. People can take it or leave it. It is what it is. And everyone, when it comes to listening to music, just remember, if you've already clicked dislike, which I haven't even looked, but if you always remember, anything you listen to or watch is completely subjective. If you like it, awesome. If you don't, that's fine. Same with instruments. If you like it and I don't like it, I'm wrong. It's all subjective. It really is. So don't take it to heart. It doesn't mean I don't like the riffs, right? I love the music in that band. I just don't necessarily think his vocal's great. Surferby says, that's funny. I love hearing someone be honest about Plant's voice. Yeah, it's just not my favorite vocal, man. It just isn't. Sometimes the funny thing with music, sometimes you hear something and you don't like it, and then the more you hear it, the more it grows on you, and then you can't live without it. That's happened to me too. So, yeah, it's happened with a lot of bands over the years where I was like, I don't get this guy's voice, and then I've come to love it. It happened a lot more when I was younger, like Smashing Pumpkins. I was like, whoa, what's the deal with this guy's vocal? I couldn't stand it when I first heard it. And I grew to love it, and it suited the music. I was like, oh, all right, now I get it. It sounds normal. So I have a feeling that will happen to me once I sort of dive into the Led Zeppelin stuff a little bit more, because there's always recommendations on what to listen to. The Beatles is another band that I'm not overly blown away by, and that will offend everybody. I think melodically they may be one of the best bands of all time. They've got a lot of good songs in their catalog, but because I didn't grow up listening to it, I don't appreciate it on the same level. They say most people born like in the 80s or onwards, the closest thing we've got to that today is Red Hot Chili Peppers. They say they're like the 90s or the modern day Beatles. They got a sound, they're great with melodies, great with all kinds of... The musicality of that band is maybe not on the same level as the Beatles, but they've got a lot of great musicality, and they've got catchy melodies that they just burn in your head and you can't get them out. Whether or not you like them or not, and I clearly know they're a very different band, right? The music's changed a lot over the years, but Beatles is another band that I like some of their stuff, but I can't stand some of it either. You know who I kind of like, and I'm starting to appreciate a lot more? This might make you laugh. This is a bit of a funny fact. The Beach Boys. Their harmonies, man. Like, there's another band, and I tell you what, musicality-wise, their songs go in 10 different directions, and they make it work. It is just really interesting how many key changes and and bridge sections and all kinds of crazy stuff was going on. I mean, the harmonies are well renowned as some of the best, right? But listening to that now, I'm like, this is really cool. And it's cheesy stuff to a lot of people too, but I'm really digging the Beach Boys. There's something about that sound that I've always loved some of their songs since I was a kid, but as I hear them again now, I'm like, this is cool. We got Wobbly Boost from Cairns. Welcome, mate. That's awesome. Another Aussie. Have I tried any Bugera amps, and what do you think of them? I have. So I gigged with a Bugera V22. Is it 22? When I was in San Fran, and that was pretty good. It was pretty good. Another mate of mine had the V22 as well, and it was a really solid amplifier. It had a lot of rattle, but once he replaced the valves, that's the first thing to do, replace the valves or the tubes, and that will generally stop the rattle. I had a Bugera V5 Infinium, one of the best practice amps of all time, and once I replaced the rattly valves, the crap ones they put in there, it was fine too. So I think they're pretty good. I'd actually love to try the Bugera V55. They make a combo of one of them. Can you talk a little bit about thumb grip and placement? You know, this is something that's pretty subjective as well. You know, it comes down to who you watch and who you learn and who your influences are. You know, as I was watching a lot of Clapton, you know, especially songs like Old Love, he'd be using his thumb a lot over the top of the fretboard. I think it just depends on how big your hands are and how comfortable it is to play like that. It's not a necessity. But if you're talking about lead position, like how it is for lead, you basically want to. I should have probably just kept that in my hand. In terms of lead stuff, I find I end up extending my thumb out more. So chords, I've got it closer to the neck. I don't know if this is right. This is just the way I play. And then for a lot of lead stuff, I'm pushing sort of on the neck with my thumb more extended. If I'm playing, especially down low, I don't have it like flat like this. It makes it a lot tougher if the hand is flat. If you play like this, you get more dexterity in your fingers. Now, I'm not saying I'm a fast player or anything like that, but for what works for me, having the thumb placement up more for lead works, and having it more in the center of the neck or even towards the top, just depending on what it is I'm playing, of course. But for chords, if I'm playing over the top, I generally have my hand more flat on the fretboard. Hey, Ross, how you doing? He says left hand thumb should be adaptable, different positions when playing single notes, bending, and chords. Well, there you go. You heard it from the pro. Yeah, I don't think too much about that. I can see when people are struggling playing lead, it generally is hand position. I've said to a few guys over the years, like, there's other examples of this I've seen where people are playing with no thumb on the back of the neck. And I'm like, how are you even holding the guitar? Like, everything you're doing looks terrible. So it's all in the hand position. Look at the pros. Look how they play. Not all professionals will have perfect technique, but it'll give you a sense of, you'll see common ground between a lot of players. And that's what I looked for when I was learning a lot in the early days, was how are these guys doing the chords they're playing? Where's their hand position? All that kind of stuff. Thoughts on the Squier Classic 550s with a Champion 20? Yeah, I think that guitar's great. You know, just for practicing at home, the Champion 20 will probably do the job. I would see if you can get a Champion 50 XL. See if you can find that for a good price. It'd be a much better sounding amp, and you can still get good tones at lower volumes. I think it would just give you a 12-inch speaker and a better tone overall. The Champion 20s are okay. The 40s are better. If you're in an apartment, go for something small. But if you're in a house, I would opt to get I'd try to get at least a 12-inch, well, 10 to 12-inch speaker. I could be wrong, but I think the Champion 20s might be an 8-inch speaker. They might be a 10. I'm not 100% certain, but I don't like the Champion 20s as much as I do the 50 XL, nor do I like them as much as the Champion 40s. I would always opt just for a slightly larger amp. Hey, mate, is a Blues Jr too loud for an apartment use? What low wattage valve amp do you recommend for that situation? It is. It's way too loud. That is way too loud. Look, you might be able to get some clean tones at lower volumes that work for you, but they're loud enough to do some gigs with, right? Maybe not all gigs, but a lot of gigs. I always go back to a few. The Bugera V5 Infinium has a switch on the back. It's a 5-watt tube amp, and you can turn it down to 1 watt or 0.1 watts. And that's the perfect apartment amp. I used that for years where I used to live. But just before I knew I was moving to a house, I sold it. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty cool home practice amp, and it takes pedals really well too, and you can run it at any volume. It really is a great amp. There's something to be said about, like, you don't necessarily even need to go for a valve or tube amp. You could go for something like a solid state or digital modeling amp. I mean, there's so many great ones out there. Check out the NUX. It's called NUX, but NUX Mini BT Lite. Awesome home practice amplifier. And that they sound great for their size, and they're tiny. I mean, the Yamaha make them as well, those Yamaha TR10s or whatever they're called, TH10s. There's plenty of really great practice amps out there. I think one of my favorite ones of all time, I said this before as well, is the Vox Pathfinder 15R. They're really, really good. But yeah, Blues Jr is just too loud. You know, I bought one at my last place I was living at, and I was shocked. I was like, oh, this is way louder than I thought it would be in here. Ah, Peter Gregg, what are you doing, man? You don't have to do that, mate. I love your videos, so I appreciate your... Hey, Shane, so happy to see you. Your first live stream. You're an amazing and kind man. Thank you for your encouragement. Hey, no worries, man. So anyone who knows of my camera obsession at the moment, I blame Peter Gregg for a lot of that. I blame some other channels as well, but yeah, I've definitely bought camera equipment based off Peter Gregg's encouragement, maybe. Let's put it that way. I didn't comment a lot for a long time on, I still don't on a lot of channels, but I've been watching Peter Gregg's live streams. They've been great to sort of be a distraction, and, you know, yeah, you got a great vibe, man. So thank you. You didn't have to super chat me back. I don't do it to get them back. So expect another one. I'm also going to up the live stream thing coming up soon. I'll have better internet coming up. I'm actually streaming with a camera like he does now. So that was another influence from another channel. I used to do this at my old place when I had good bandwidth, and I didn't know this would work too well here with my limited internet capability, but it seems to be fine. So I'm going to get this little switcher. If we do live podcasts, it'll be great. You'll see a huge improvement coming up once those A10 minis are in stock. So thank you, Peter Gregg. So if I've ever encouraged someone inadvertently to buy something, other people do that to me too. So thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. If you're into cameras, go subscribe. Cool. Every guy in it was totally killer. I think the best live show I've ever seen was Dr. John's band. He had his full New Orleans rhythm section, or New Orleans rhythm section with him. That show was unbelievable, man. Like, as soon as they started, it was just the funkiest, grooviest show. It's probably not straight blues show, right? Like, it isn't. He does blues, but it's also funk and New Orleans and lots of different flavors. But it was just interesting, and it was super funky. Guitar player was great. It was right after Duke Ellington came out, that album that they did. Oh, Elegant, I should say. That was a green album I've got. I bought that. Man, I used to... Yeah, Dr. John's one of my favorites, and being able to see him live was a treat. It was unreal, man. Just so good. Jamal says he got to see Prince, and it was great. Man, that guy's like was the consummate showman. You know, he's... What a dude. I didn't appreciate him enough. You know, like I'd seen him play guitar, and I was like, this guy's awesome. But if you want to see something great, he does a solo acoustic version of Cream, and the crowd are just eating it up, man. It's so good. Like his rhythmic chops as good or better than any of your favorite guitar players. He was just a beast, an absolute beast. A great lead player too. Like he could play his ass off, but he's just got this funk in his rhythm playing that a lot of guys don't have. Just great execution and yeah, just really cool. One for the chat, pedal suggestion for the front of a modeling amp, boost or preamp or EQ. Look, sometimes when you buy a boost pedal, like a clean boost pedal for a modeling amp, it's not going to do what you hope it will do. It kind of just makes it sound splatty. So just be careful of that. I would always opt for an overdrive instead of a clean boost in front of any modeling amp. It colors the sound, but it does it in a way that it still sounds very pleasing. Not all modeling amps take pedals well, and I haven't really come across one that takes clean boost pedals extremely well. There's just not a lot of them out there. Usually what happens is I'll run an overdrive and a clean boost in front of that overdrive, and then that works. But I'll never just usually click the clean boost on. There's like a limit to where it'll work, and then it'll just get weird. It won't push the front end into overdrive. It'll push it into digital splattiness, so just be careful of that. The Tone Master Twin's about the only amp I've got where it can kind of work. So yeah, just be careful of running a clean boost into a modeling amp. It's probably not going to do what you hope it will do. I would always opt for an overdrive. EQ pedals can work too if you need that kind of thing. Do you plan on getting an acoustic guitar at any point? If so, what's the ideal acoustic guitar for your taste? So I do want to get an acoustic at some point. I think I'll probably either get a Taylor GS Mini with a pickup. I love those things. I think they're small, compact. They sound amazing plugged in. They feel great to play. They also sound pretty big acoustically. Or I'm probably going to go for a Sigma, which might surprise a lot of people. But there's a lot of really great left-handed Sigma guitars that also sound great acoustically, but also sound really great plugged in. Like I have that travel guitar, which is from Journey Instruments still. I've still got that. It's one of those ones you can collapse down. And that sounds fine on its own, but it doesn't sound very good plugged in. The passive pickup in there sucks. So I really want something with a Fishman pickup or something like that. I've owned a Maton before as well, but I'm not overly impressed with their instruments. I feel like they're too expensive for what you're getting. They're no better than the Sigmas. Sometimes, like there are some of the higher end ones which are really great, but you can't get them in a lefty. So I'm looking at this from a lefty's perspective, not as the right-hander where you got 9 more options for every one guitar I have. So yeah, I just keep that in mind. As a left-hander, I don't see there's a lot of difference in the value. So a Mini Maton might be the way I'd go to if it played and sounded good, but I really feel like the Taylor GS Mini is probably the best lefty I've played in recent times that I love. I played Cole Clarks and all kinds of instruments. Quartz are pretty good too, but there was a shop shutting down in the city years ago, and they had a left-handed GS Mini, and I went in there and I played it. I was like, this is the best acoustic guitar I've ever played. I should buy it. And they had a good sale on because they were closing down. I went back the next day, it was sold. So I think since then I've been like, oh man, if I ever see one of those GS Minis with a pickup, there's a few around without the pickup, but I really want to be able to use it live. I want an active pickup that works. The Martin 000X1AE also has pretty decent Fishman pickups. Amazing guitar if you can get the chance to try one. Cool. Yeah, Martins are awesome too, but I don't play acoustic that much that I would sort of really want to invest in a Martin. I'm not probably a good enough guitar player for me to justify that. For me personally, being that I know I won't play it all the time. The last acoustic guitar I purchased was an Epiphone Jumbo. It was one of those big ones with the mustache bridge and all that kind of stuff. I bought it because I was recording an album. I needed some acoustic guitar done, and I had it all done on the second day. And then after that, I was like, I'm probably not going to play this guitar anymore, so I sold it. So yeah, I don't play acoustic that much, but I'd love to find one that if I did need to plug into the PA system and play live with it, it would be epic. Those mics are killer for pretty much every application. I'd love to acquire one, but they're quite pricey. Yeah, so I have a huge gas fascination with microphones and camera gear. That's like, I don't spend a lot of money on camera gear now. I've got everything I need, but I'm always looking at different microphones, mostly for my tech channel as well. I love having different mics to test and compare and all that kind of thing. So in terms of this is the Rode Procaster. This is made in Australia. It's a dynamic microphone, so it basically doesn't need phantom power, but much like the Shure SM7B and probably the Electro Voice as well, which requires a lot of gain, I'm actually running it through an external preamp back here just to give it a bit more signal. And then that's going back into the camera. So yeah, this is a cool microphone, and one of the great things about it is you can use it for other stuff. You can throw it in front of a guitar amp, and it's going to sound great. And because it's such a low input microphone, you could run this on almost anything that's loud, and it will never distort or do anything funny. So super cool mics. I got a lot of different mics on the floor here. I actually did a live stream on my other channel before doing this one. for the first time, actually, just before. And I was like, oh, I'll swap over some of to a couple of the different microphones. But I was like, no, I love the sound of this one. It is pretty cool. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name's Shane. I hope you like this little recap video. I thought this would be a good idea as opposed to just leaving a 3-hour video up. So the way I'm going to do it moving forward is most likely leave the stream online until I get the editing done of the actual live stream. And then I'll take that or make it private or whatever. And I'll be posting this video up so it's a little bit easier for people to get into. So thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. Catch you soon. See ya.